Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray resigns and the special Senate election is heating up. WBZ political analyst John Keller takes a look in today's Keller at Large.
Good morning. Thanks very much for joining us. This week in local politics, a big-time departure from the Patrick administration, a big-time endorsement for Senate candidate Gabriel Gomez, and an acceleration of the Senate race ad wars. Let's talk about all of that and maybe more with one of Boston's best political reporters and analysts, David Bernstein, contributing editor for Boston Magazine and must-read blogger at his website, davidsbernstein.com. David S. Bernstein, welcome.
Always glad to be here.
Good to have you here. David, Lieutenant Governor Tim Murray, who was considered a front-runner in the 2014 governor's race as recently as last year, announced last week he's leaving politics altogether to become CEO of the, let me get this straight now, the Worcester Regional Chamber of Commerce. Now, 200 grand, that's a plum job for someone who was going to need a job in 2015 anyway, no doubt about it. But Murray says the ongoing law enforcement probe of his dealings with disgraced former Chelsea housing chief Michael McLaughlin had nothing to do with his decision. Do you buy that?
Well, I think that it did have something to do in sort of the 1 degree of separation, which is to say, if he was still a viable candidate for governor 2014, he wouldn't be leaving to go be the head of the Chamber of Commerce in Worcester. And the reason that he's not a viable candidate for governor is because of these ongoing problems that he's having sort of roiling in the background. So certainly it's hard to say that it has nothing to do with it, but I don't think it was the immediate cause.
Murray has never been charged in connection with this case. Sources in law enforcement tell us there is no imminent indictment or charge coming, although the investigation is continuing. There are some people, I spoke with some of them the other day, particularly in Central Mass, who feel like Tim Murray has been sort of smeared by, as they like to put it, the Boston media.
Yeah.
And and a lot of innuendo and so forth. Do they have a case?
Well, I think that the Boston media would do that to anyone, regardless of where that person is in the state. That's what the Boston media does, is they jump on things, and particularly things that are open questions. And the Boston media is going to always keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. And it seems to me like there were legitimate open questions, both about his infamous road accident and about his relationship with Mike McLaughlin, that were legitimate questions, and yes, they pushed very hard. But I don't think that it was because he was a Worcester boy. I think it was because he was a major gubernatorial possibility who had these open questions.
Now, at the press conference announcing his resignation, Governor Patrick said his departure leaves a, quote, huge void in the administration. But it's my sense that over some period of time now, that his legal issues, if you will, have been a huge embarrassment for Governor Patrick. Do you agree with that?
Well, I think they've been an embarrassment. I don't know how big. I mean, certainly Deval Patrick has stood very, very faithfully by Tim Murray, and I think sort of too quickly. He sort of stood by him before questions were answered, which made it seem like he didn't care what the answers were, in a sense. Leaving a big void, I think that's too much to say. Certainly Tim Murray has been a very active and important part of the administration in a number of different ways. I think that role has diminished somewhat in the second term, but certainly, we're talking about a governor in the last 18 months or so of his administration. Anyway, he can get by without a lieutenant governor.
We got a break, and I want to move on to the Senate race, but real quickly, is there a political future for Tim Murray?
I think there could be. I think there are a lot of second acts in politics. Like you said, he hasn't been indicted. Right. I imagine that the people who are hiring him, who are very savvy people, don't think that there's another shoe to drop, or they wouldn't be bringing him on.
Right.
I think he could very easily be running for governor in another 4 or 5 years.
All right, David, great to have you here. We'll continue our conversation and talk a little bit about the U.S. Senate race when we continue in a moment. Stay with us.